Hello and welcome to Merlin's Manor. Today I'm going over the board games that I played for the first time in the month of October and giving my first impressions of these games. I had 15 plays across 7 new games. Keep in mind that I had a limited amount of plays for these games, so the ratings I will give these games are very tentative and subject to change after more plays. Let's go ahead and jump right on in with the first one, and that is Arkham Horror, the card game, revised edition. I played this game 3 times, playing through a single campaign, and I'm giving it a 6.5 out of 10. I really do like the gameplay. There are several characters to choose from, each having their own stats for accomplishing various tests. When playing the campaign, you have a starter deck, and you'll be buying new cards with experience points after each game, and discarding 1 card per card purchase, which I also like the feeling of leveling up by getting better cards and getting rid of some of the cards that you don't really need as much. It just feels like the campaign is too short, not enough time to level up, plus it's over too quick, and there's not enough variety in the base game scenario-wise. Not sure what is available for future campaigns rather than just one-off scenarios. I also did not try the game as a one-off where you are giving a way to construct your deck, but I really feel like I would prefer this game played as a campaign rather than the one-offs where you are constructing a deck to play a single scenario. I did like being able to prep by getting allies out who give abilities, plus they can take damage and horror for you, and getting items set out which will help you. The fact that you are limited to the amount of items based on hand slots, a neck slot, and an arcane slot makes sense and works well. Overall, I found the combat and other tests worked okay. You definitely need to try to gain some extra help or play cards for their icons so that if you pulled a negative, you might still pull off the test. You could also scale the game's difficulty by changing the makeup of the bag, but personally would not find that to be a fun way of making it more difficult, just making it more likely to pull a huge negative token. I also felt like the final boss was impossible to beat in a straight up fight, at least without an insane amount of luck. There were 2 alternate ways to win, but we failed to accomplish either of those, so it came down to a futile battle. Overall, if there was more content with the base game, in particular when it comes to scenarios which could be played as a bigger campaign, then I would probably rate this in the 7s range, but as it stands, I'm giving it a 6.5 out of 10. We will be coming back and playing with different characters to see how we fare with other characters and how those characters change up the feel of the game. I may also look into whether the content is available at some point. If you know of any content that adds additional campaign material or maybe just scenarios that you really like, let me know in the comments down below so I know what to check out to improve upon my experience with this game. Let's go ahead and get into the next one, and that is Run, Fight, or Die, which I played 3 times, and I'm giving it a 7 out of 10. This game is a competitive zombie fighting game where you each have your own set of 3 zones where zombies are going to be spawning and attacking you. Gameplay itself has a Yahtzee-style dice rolling mechanic where you can roll your dice and then roll as many of the dice again, up to 3 times rolling total, with the exception of not being able to re-roll the zombie symbol. The dice will allow you to perform melee attacks, range attacks, discover areas of the map by flipping cards, triggering an event, gaining survivors for victory points, and abilities that are either good or bad, and gaining loot which will help you out. Each player has some special abilities which I found we did not use often since they required rolling very specific dice combinations which included zombies. Overall, the game feels very luck-based, even beyond the rolling of dice, since the survivors you get being helpful versus hurting you, and being worth a good number of victory points versus not being worth a good number of victory points is going to be very random, and there are very few ways to generate victory points outside of the luck of the draw. Even so, I did have fun playing the game, and I could see others enjoying this game to play for a light game when you're not too concerned with winning or losing, but just want to have some fun chucking some dice, trying to make combos with those dice that will be helpful in thinning a zombie horde in front of you. There is a semi-cooperative element of taking out a mutant zombie boss in order to keep cards from being pulled which cause bad things to happen to everyone, and you will gain points for doing damage to that zombie mutant, which are also a randomized amount of points. There is a lot of luck involved throughout the game, but for this game, I think it worked well if you're not going to take the game too seriously when it comes to trying to win. There were a few things I particularly did not like. First, the game boards were backwards, Zone 1 and Zone 3 being switched, so you either had to reverse them or just remember that whenever something referenced Zone 1, that it really meant Zone 3 and vice versa. I did email the company, and they are either going to send me stickers or replacement boards that haven't come in yet, so that is a solution to fix the problem there. Another thing I did not appreciate is that there are not only solo rules included in this, but also solo components included, but the solo mode requires additional parts which are sold separately. I kind of feel like this is an upsell attempt. Now, I can somewhat understand the rules being included to keep them all in one place, even though it did make me hyped to try it out, only to discover that I couldn't. But including some solo components doesn't even make sense if you can't play the solo game unless you order the solo version, which then you could have included the components there. The solo game does look intriguing though, and I may even find myself enjoying the solo game more than the multiplayer game, as it has some scenarios that you need to work through in a mini campaign, and in it you are actually revealing a map as you make your way across the town. At a glance it seemed to add more to the gameplay, but since I have not tried it, I can't really tell. Currently I'm rating this game a 7 out of 10, with the potential for that to go up if I really find myself liking the solo mode even more. Now let's go ahead and get into the next one, and that is Robinson Crusoe, which I played 3 times, and I'm giving a 7.5 out of 10. Robinson Crusoe comes with 6 different scenarios, and we have played 2 of them so far, and I'm very much looking forward to playing more of the scenarios. This game is a cooperative survival game, which can be quite harsh. It is a worker placement game, and you have a very limited amount of workers to use each round to accomplish various tasks. On top of that, you can either assign 1 worker to an area to risk not accomplishing the task, as well as risking injury in an event, which may be good or bad, or you can assign 2 workers to ensure that the task gets done. If playing solo or 2 players, you also have tokens representing Friday that you can use. This game has events that will be revealed each round, which often has something occur immediately, and then we'll go into a display where it has a worker placement spot and something negative that will happen if you don't go there and get rid of it by the time it leaves. Typically, it will leave in 2 turns, but getting rid of the one behind it will keep it from leaving since there will be a freed up space. You are going to be spending the game exploring the island, gathering resources from explored tiles, hunting for food and pelts, and building tools, shelters, layers of roofing, and protective fences, all while trying to keep your morale up. As the game goes on, weather is going to become a problem, which will claim resources if you are unable to fully protect yourself from the elements. You have to feed your people at the end of each round, which will come from the production from the tile your camp is on, plus whatever you are able to gather or hunt. Most of the food you will gain goes away at the end of the round, so you cannot stockpile too much food. There is special food that does not spoil and can be carried over from round to round, but most of that food is going to go away, whether you are able to use it or not. Each character has their own special abilities as well as an item that they can build. The group has a bunch of starter items that are available to build each game, plus a random assortment of items revealed each game, which adds some additional variety outside of the different scenarios. Before you can hunt, you have to reveal a tile or other source that adds an animal card to the deck. When you hunt, you will reveal the top animal card and have to meet a certain level of attack ability to keep from taking wounds. Plus, some will lower your attack ability for future hunts, and then you gain food and pelts. There's a lot that you have to balance in this game in order to survive, all while trying to accomplish the objectives for the scenario before the time runs out. It is quite the crunch to balance the things that you need to do each round to survive, along with the building up your damage ability and building tools to make things easier on yourself, all while trying to accomplish the scenario's goal. I do find it to be a shame that you don't really have time to build many of the tools, and so often many cool things we would have liked to have built just don't get built, since you have to spend build actions on tools, roof layers, palisades, and objective-related builds, not to mention gathering the required resources for what you are building. I've really enjoyed this game, and I'm looking forward to playing more scenarios. I think it works really well at 2 players, especially with the addition of Friday for more actions. I don't know how well it scales with more players since I've only played it at the 2-player count, but on BGG it says it is best at 1 to 2 players, and I'm inclined to believe that might very well be true. I have seen that there is a huge adventure book out there with more scenarios as well as ways to make the scenarios more difficult, which I would like to get eventually once we have played through the 6 scenarios that came with the base game. Again, I'm giving this game a 7.5 out of 10, which may potentially go higher as I get to play more of the scenarios, but I will caution you that it is a tough game with a lot to balance in order to win. So that is Robinson Crusoe. Now the next one that I played was Dorf Romantik, the board game. I played it twice, and I'm giving it a 7 out of 10. This game is a very chill, cooperative puzzle game. Each player takes a turn flipping a tile and placing it while trying to connect the new tile with light terrain in order to be able to score tasks and other objectives. You're practically always going to have 3 tasks on the map, since whenever there are less than 3 tasks, you'll be drawing a new task tile to place out. The task tile will have you grab a random task from the type of task being placed, types being river, farm, train, forest, or city. The number on the task will range from 4 to 6. And a task is completed when you manage to have exactly that number of tiles with the terrain connected. If you do something that causes the number to skip over that number, then you're going to fail that task and you don't get the points. When you complete the task, you gain the points based on the task number, and the next player will put out a new task tile. There are other things to accomplish that are added as you advance through the campaign. My biggest negative for this game is that there is no win-loss condition. It's just the more points you score, the faster you're going to unlock new things. Plus there are achievements to accomplish as you go. It is a fun game, and I definitely enjoy the aspect of unlocking things as you go, but there is a part of me that really wishes there was some sort of scoring goal for each game. Even considering it as a beat-your-own score is awkward because there are things that change up how easy it will be to score as many points, and from what I hear as you go, higher scores are going to come more easily than in the early game, so higher scores will just happen. I do enjoy the chill puzzle, and each game has played really quick so far, coming in around 30 minutes. It's also a game that I could see playing multiple games in a single sitting for that very reason. If you would like a chill cooperative game and don't mind the lack of a win-loss objective, then I would recommend checking out this game, as I rate it a 7 out of 10, but with the caveat that if you prefer having a more direct win-loss condition, then this might not be a game for you. The next one I'm going to talk about is Let's Go to Japan, which we played twice, and I'm giving it an 8 out of 10. Let's Go to Japan is a competitive game where you are spending the game planning a trip to Japan, and then at the end you simply run the trip that you planned and gain victory points for the places you visited and the bonuses you managed to accumulate along the way. The game is played by looking at cards and selecting 1 to 2 of them to play depending on the round you're in, and passing the others to another player. You will choose where to place them in your trip, choosing the day they go in, and then ordering them amongst any locations you've already placed on that day. The bottommost card is going to give you a bonus if you manage to achieve the conditions to score that bonus. Cards will be played not only for their victory points, but also for symbols, which will advance you on the tracks, giving you the symbols you need to accomplish bonuses on the cards, as well as gaining you victory points based on how far you made it along that track by the end. Some symbols increase or decrease happiness, which results in a tug of war on the happiness track, and you will bank points whenever you get to the end of the track. Positive points for happiness and negative points for stress. Thematically, you are being happier when you get to rest some or spend less money, and you become more stressed when you are doing something that requires extra energy or extra money. Another thing you have to be aware of as you plan your trip is where the activities are located, as some take place in Tokyo and others take place in Kyoto, and you have to take a train between the 2 cities when you switch from one to the other. So you want to kind of line them up to where you're doing multiple things in Tokyo and then go to Kyoto and vice versa. You get a starting train, and you can earn bonus trains worth 2 points and 1 energy by having all 3 cards you place in a day having the same icon as that day is wanting, but otherwise utilizing trains will cost you 2 points instead. This game is a fun game and has a lot that you have to balance in order to score well. Trying to get multiple cards with the same symbol as the day to get bonuses. Trying to figure out the best point on the week for various cards to be able to utilize the symbols are most likely to be able to score the bonus. Even the card you use for the final place you visit on the day to be the one that you score the bonus, all while being mindful of how often you're going to have to take a train. The game also allows you to mitigate the cards that you have to choose from by allowing you to take a walk instead. The walk will be at least 1 point and an energy, but you will get to flip it while taking the trip to decide if you want it for the other side or just to keep it for that walk. You will, however, not know what is on the other side until the end, though you will know which city it is in. So you are taking the chance that it will not work for you at all. I think this game is clever and it's not too hard to learn, but has a fairly deep level of strategy. I also enjoyed the theme, and everyone going through their trips day by day at the end is fun and feels like you are telling your friends what you did on your trip. The scoring system works well, and there are various ways to score points between advancing on the tracks, scoring innate points for the activities you do, bonus points for your final card each day, which relies on the symbols you've collected up to that point, scoring based on happiness and stress, and trying to balance that tug of war, and through the trains that you'll be taking, which can be positive points or negative points depending on if you manage to stag enough bonus trains along the way. I really have enjoyed this game so far, and it plays in about 30 to 45 minutes, and I'm giving it an 8 out of 10. Now the next one I want to talk about is Fast and Furious Highway Heist, which I played once, and I'm giving it a 6.5 out of 10. This game has been on my shelf of shame-ertunity for quite some time, just over 2 years actually, as I bought it back in September of 2022, and it has just taken me quite some time to want to pull it down and play it. First, there is not a lot of content to this game. There are 3 missions with just some slight variability in how content for each mission will come out. It feels like it will not have a lot of replayability at a glance, but I have currently only played it once, so it is hard to be sure of that at this point. As far as our single play went, we started out feeling like the game was going to be won easily, but then hit a snag when a repairman started repairing the tank, and eventually found ourselves in an awkward situation where there weren't any vehicles we could utilize to do damage, and we wound up at the mercy of the cards that were coming out and lost. To a certain degree, that was up to our poor planning, and to a certain degree, not knowing what to expect. We will probably do better next time. Now, as far as how the game plays, it is okay. I enjoyed playing through it and will be coming back to try it again and intend to play through all 3 missions. Each player has their own character with his or her own stats, as well as a car with its own stats, as well as a special ability which does help with the replayability some. I did find avoiding taking damage to be a little easy in this game. The main difficulty is in taking down the tank or other targets within the time limit. The puzzle of how we were going to set things up to perform stunts or otherwise damage the tank was interesting. Also, the various tests to do various maneuvers meant certain characters had a much easier time of some tasks, while others it was a roll the dice and hope for the best. You could somewhat mitigate those tests by spending boost tokens if you rolled boost symbols. Also, the cooperative nature of being able to spend a boost token before the roll to help another player by giving them extra dice was a nice touch as well. Of course, deciding when it was worth it before rolling was a tough decision in itself, since those boost tokens were not too easy to come by, and you had to complete stunts to get those tokens. Overall, I enjoyed the game, but it is not going to be one of my top games. At this time, I feel like we will likely play each scenario until we beat them, and then probably move on from the game at that point. But who knows, maybe I'll find a bit more to this game after all. Currently, I'm giving it a 6.5 out of 10. The next game I'm going to talk about is Explorers of Navoria, which I played once, and I'm giving it a 7.5 out of 10. I really enjoy the engine building in this game. You have huts that you build, which will give you more benefits when you take the associated action. Plus, those huts will start you out further along on the associated travel track, which will help you to be able to advance to the end of the track, or at least higher up, as your player normally resets to the beginning of the track, but instead will reset to the furthest out hut there. There's also an aspect of engine building found in getting cards that give you income, and how you're able to score based on other cards that you get. I also found the action selection mechanism to be clever. You can either select one of the discarded tokens to gain a card of that type, or you can draw 2 random options and choose one. This gives the player some agency, but at the same time includes a certain degree of chance. It also helps with analysis paralysis some by limiting options, though each option starts out with 3 choices of cards, giving you still potentially 6 choices when you draw 2 chips from the bag. The cards themselves have different functions. One gives you resources, one gives you immediate scoring plus scoring each round, one gives you endgame points, and another gives you points based on how much you travel, while another one allows you to travel. There are also goals based on set collection, being the first to collect 5 of a type of creature, which will gain you endgame scoring benefits, and second will be a lesser endgame benefit. After everyone has collected 4 cards, then players use the tokens placed as workers to gain various benefits related to the token type. This part of the game provided some tension as you want to do so much, and so do all the other players, and you have to try and do the most important things first, otherwise players may take the better spots or even use the last token of a type, keeping you from being able to do that action. The one thing I found a little odd was when you collected resources, you placed them on 3 locations on your player board to be able to pay for the building of huts, but you must place them on different locations. This forces you to spread out your resources so you cannot focus on just building up one area and potentially wasting resources on areas you can no longer build on or would rather not build. Plus, it slows down your ability to build any given area. I did like that each location had different requirements for building. One was 1 of each resource, one was 3 of any one resource, and the other was 4 resources. I would just have liked more agency in being able to place resources. I also found that the game had so much to focus on that it felt like you could not properly get everything you wanted to do done, and it was hard to figure out what was the best to focus on in our first game. While the game is not too complex to learn how to play, figuring out the strategy was quite complex and will likely take me a few games to really feel like I have a firm grasp on good strategies, how to balance going up the various tracks, going after the goals, getting resources to build huts, while also getting the cards required to score for cards and goals. There's just a lot going on in this game, and finding synergies between the various cards and the various ways to score points is a major key to scoring well in this game. So after one play, I'm giving this game a tentative 7.5 out of 10, and we'll see how this game holds up after more plays. I hope you've enjoyed this video and my first impressions of these games. I enjoyed playing these games and getting to talk about them a little bit. And I hope you'll check out some more of my videos and subscribe if you haven't already done so. And I hope you have a great week and keep on gaming.